Okay, middle class parents of adult children. I'm going to need you to really understand something for me. Your children are not middle class. I think a lot of us are realizing that the middle class no longer exists, but I think that it's especially hard, even if you understand this on a mental level, it's really hard for parents in America to reckon with the fact that even though they did everything right, even though they made it into the middle class and they have a strong resume, they're hard workers, they've done everything right, and they did everything right to give their children everything that they thought that their children needed. Unfortunately, your children are doing worse than you.
Ooh, generally speaking, I hear a lot of younger adults struggling to find jobs, struggling to have the same things that their parents had at their age. Like, say if you're 30, you probably remember your parents having a house, having a car, having a white picket fence, all these things, right? Being able to go on vacation. And they probably didn't even have to work really good jobs back then. They just worked a job and were able to do all those things. The way inflation is, times have changed and the money just ain't going as far as it used to. And honestly, I think it depends on who you talk to, because some people are having a better quality of life than their parents and some people aren't. According to this 2024 Investopedia article, around half of the U.S. population is middle class. In 2021, just 50% of American adults lived in middle-income households, down from 54% in 2021. In 1981, it was 59%, and in 1971, it was 61% of people in the middle class. So this shows evidence that the middle class has been both decreasing in population share and seeing its cut of the income pie shrink. One thing about it, the boomers and Gen X, or even us millennials, we can't deny that the money don't go as far as it used to.
And again, that may not be news to you necessarily, but let's think about the implications of this. As the middle class does not exist anymore.
And it's no offense, but I want to have a conversation. In fact, according to the data we just showed, it is in fact shrinking, but it does still exist.
And many of your children are actually living in poverty. Middle class rules of success, how you're supposed to handle yourself as an adult, how you're supposed to manage your time, your resources, your money, how you're supposed to budget, and that sort of decision making that worked for the middle class is not the same logic that people living in poverty are going to need to follow.
So she said that the middle class is going away. I actually been saying that for years, but I did want to look into something she said. Now, according to this Yahoo Finance article, it says, what is the estimated median income for upper middle class in 2025? And I thought this would be interesting to know, because what is upper middle class? They notably even say here, defining it can be tricky. Now, it says here, based on the most recent U.S. Census Bureau data, the median household income was listed at $75,580. And y'all know there's nuance to everything. And it says here, the amount that is considered middle class or upper middle class will depend on where you live in the country. Now, they say based off of the definition of middle class, the income range for this group will be anywhere between $49,715 to $149,160. Again, y'all, this is considered middle class. This is not considered to be in poverty or low class. Going on to say that means to be considered in the top 20% of the middle class, you would need to earn between $106,092 and $149,160. Again, depending on where you live. Now, another thing that I thought kind of stood out was when she was talking about how there is a difference between how people budget and go about managing their money when they are either middle class or they are living in poverty. And I agree with what she's saying to an extent, but I still feel like you have to always work with what you have in your situation, because you can always make your situation way worse. For example, using things like buy now, pay later or credit cards or things like that for food, necessities and things like that. And I can definitely understand people using those things in a time of struggle when they absolutely have no other way and they're trying to eat. I can get that. However, I also think that you can dig yourself into quite a big hole doing unnecessary things, like spending money on vacations that can be quite expensive, buying things that might not be a necessity, that are wants, that are costly, getting vehicles that you can't afford, those sort of things, Because get me, I can understand doing things out of necessity, but when you start racking up debt on things that you don't need, the rules still apply whether you have money or not. That's just something that's not very smart to do. Because eventually, whoever you got the money from, whether it's the credit card company or you got a loan or like, Lord forbid, you got a payday loan or whatever the case is, eventually they're going to want their money back. And if you're in poverty, that's even worse because you already don't have the money. You may already be nickeling and diming it just to make sure that you're keeping the lights on. So why make it worse? You know what I mean? And I just want to stress, I really don't think it matters what class you're in. Budgeting is essential. It's essential to not overspending. It's essential to knowing what you have and knowing what your limit is. If you don't know what your limit is, you're likely to go over your limit. I mean, why wouldn't you go over your limit if you don't know what the limit is? That's whether you have a plethora of money or you don't. For example, say you made $5,000 a month, but you decided you wanted to go to the Gucci and Louis store and you wanted all the belts and you wanted all the fancy stuff and then you wanted to go get you a car. Then you wanted to go on a trip. Say you never looked at your bank account. Say you don't know how much money you really have going in. You could essentially just put yourself into debt owing all these people money because you're spending more resources than you have, especially if you're doing it on a credit card. I've seen people do that. And you might as well just clock yourself into work for the next year or so because you didn't look and understand what your budget was. You didn't know how much money you had and you didn't know that you couldn't afford to do that. But because you didn't know, you jumped in the water and got wet. You see what I'm saying? And the same logic will apply to somebody that doesn't have a large amount of money either. If they're in poverty, everybody should know how much their expenses come up to every month. Everybody should be able to adjust for the cost of inflation and say, hey, it's getting a little tight. We might need to take some stuff out. Or, hey, we might need to make some more money. We have to be honest about these things because if we don't even look at it, how do we know that there's a problem?
One thing that comes to mind is the fact that people living in poverty don't always have the luxury to make smart financial decisions. People living in poverty don't have the luxury to be able to think long-term, a lot of long-term goals that are quite literally on hold. It's also a privilege to be able to take risks, to be able to learn from your mistakes. If you don't have an emergency fund, then you have to be strategic in a certain way that people with safety nets don't necessarily need to do. One example is credit cards. I know that you're supposed to pay off more than the minimum balance in your credit card. I've always known that. My middle-class parents taught me that. What do you do if your expenses are beyond your income?
One, you either live on less than you make some adjustments, make some changes, or you got to make more money. Like, we complicate stuff so bad. I don't get it. I say this to be realistic. If we just really think about what are our possibilities, we're going to name some more that I just think are ridiculous, but we'll just put them out there. Y'all can get online and beg for money. Whole lot of people doing that on TikTok. Set up a cash app, do a fish fry, do a crab boil, sell plates, ask your friends or family for some money, get a sugar daddy, get a sugar mama, come up on a lawsuit, or we waiting on money to fall out the sky. I don't get it. What else do we have to do? And like I said, I'm not even saying that I agree with all of those things that I named, because I don't. Morally, I don't. Even if you got paid in a lump sum, you have to make sure you are being a good steward of the money, or you have to go out and get some more money. You got two options. And the most important thing, you need to pray. Yep, pray.
You're gonna need food. God forbid an emergency happens. What are you gonna do when your car breaks down? Just as most of us know, and a lot of middle-class parents probably taught you, that a payday loan is a major scam.
Yeah.
Most of them have never been in a position where they needed to take one out. Now, I haven't taken one out. I'm not speaking on that, but I'm comparing that to credit cards in the sense that everybody wants to make smart financial decisions.
Everybody don't want to make smart finance. I'm sorry, but that's just not the truth. We just seen somebody get a $2,000 BMW, knowing it was $2,000 a month, didn't care. At the time of getting the car, they didn't care because they had the car. It wasn't until they realized that those payments weren't going towards the principal that then they wanted to make better decisions. And I'm glad that they now all of a sudden want to make financial decisions that make sense. But when we have all the information right in front of us, in the midst of somebody dangling the thing that you really want right in front of you, like, hey, here you go. Here go them brand new keys. New car smell. You finna be pulling up riding clean. Everybody gonna see you. People aren't worried about making good financial decisions then. People aren't worried about making good financial decisions when they're at Coachella using Klarna, going on vacations all throughout the world, talking about they gonna pay it in full, knowing they not going to pay them for. Do you see what I'm saying? Everybody don't care about making good decisions. So we not going to do that. Because the amount of people that I hear be like, I don't care, like, tell them to come get it from me. Like, what do you want from me? Like, I took the money. What do you want? Like, sue me. And they're actually getting sued. So y'all not finna gaslight me into thinking people care. Some people do. And some people don't. Luck of the draw. And to be quite honest, a lot of people feel like the things that they want to do are so far out of their reach, they're going to put it on credit anyway and just be like, I had no intentions of paying y'all back. I had no intentions of doing that. I want to live my life. And the only thing that's stopping me from living the life I want to live is the resources I don't have. Y'all got the resources. I'm going to use the resources. And then when you ask me for the money back, I'm going to act like I don't know you. You call me, I'm going to hit ignore. How many of us know people like that in our lives? Knowing a car is the last thing they need to put them in a good financial decision, but they're going to get it anyway. They're going to get a car note. They're going on the vacation. They're eating out. They can't cook, won't cook, don't own a cookbook. Y'all ain't. And you know another thing? Don't get me started on the people who love a good pickup truck, because I don't know what's up with them. They are a deep crowd online. They going to keep them a pickup truck, and then don't get me started on the Disney adults. I don't know what's going on with the Disney adults. They're willing to pay top dollar to go broke every year. And they going to complain about it, talking about the prices going up. And yet they there every year. I don't want it. Y'all be on here lying.
You don't have enough to meet your basic needs. You start to look at things differently and think about the difference between an actual need versus a want, and also versus a should.
And I understand that. Again, doing things with credit cards, payday loans, things like that out of pure necessity, I understand. You are trying to, at that point, you're trying to survive. And I would never knock somebody for just trying to survive. It's the extra stuff. And even though people are trying to survive in those situations, I just hope they can understand the gravity of those situations. A lot of them have no clue. A lot of people think that is free money. They don't get it. And you don't know what you don't know. And they end up in these cycles and they're not able to pay it back. That is really scary. And it's just because they're not informed. And that's why I like to do videos like this. It helps people understand why they should stay away at all costs, if you can. But if you can't, my empathy for humanity wouldn't allow me to be like, oh, that's a horrible thing to do. For basic necessities, like, come on.
Like credit scores, for example. A credit score is not real. It is made up.
Hold the phone. Ma'am, very real. It's real whenever you need an apartment. It's real if you're leasing, because a lot of people, and she's talking about middle class poverty, leasing, renting. Y'all don't think that the landlord is checking the credit score? Because I tell you, as a landlord, I am. I'm checking every time. Y'all trying to get cars, y'all don't think that they're looking at that subprime credit score that you have? That's going to affect your interest rate. Y'all don't think that the utility companies aren't going to run your credit to see, hey, are y'all going to need to pay a deposit or not? Because it gets even worse when you have a bad credit score. You got to pay a deposit sometimes for utilities. So my thing is, how is something not real if it's something that you probably utilize if you don't have the resources or the money to actually pay up front for these things? And I don't know if that's the emotions and her not liking credit scores that's making her say, hey, it's not real, but it's real. It'll be real when you need it. So we don't really have to argue about that because life is going to show you it's real. What?
A credit score is not real. It is made up. It is a should. You should have a good credit score. However, the need for shelter and food, not a should. That's a need. So to be able to make a decision between a should and a need, I'm going to prioritize paying myself before I pay the banks. Because I am a person who's alive and I have physical needs.
And I understand that. Definitely. Needs is the key word. Needs.
A bank printed out money, signed it, whatever, gonna give me a number. Are they going to die if I don't pay them on time?
No, it's just going to affect your credit. But again, she's saying these are for needs. So, okay, your credit just might be really messed up. And there are consequences of your credit being messed up. I don't make the rules. That is what happens. If your credit is messed up, you have a hard time utilizing credit in the future.
Or am I going to die if I don't get food? This is the sort of logic that if you do live comfortably in the middle class, you're able to follow the rules.
And they're not even following the rules a lot of the time. Most Americans can't afford $1,000 emergency. What rules? And don't take my word for it. This is according to CBS News. Most Americans cannot afford $1,000 emergency expense, reports find. And that's according to a new Bankrate report, y'all. And this article is actually from early 2025. The annual study found that 59% of Americans in 2025 don't have enough savings to cover an unexpected expense of $1,000. But the part that really got me was where the Bankrate senior economic analyst says here, we are essentially a paycheck to paycheck nation. Now, granted, I understand that people in poverty and middle class and upper middle class all have different economic struggles and may be able to save differently. It may definitely be harder for some classes than the other, especially people in poverty. That's a given. But make no mistake, a lot of people are not prepared for an emergency no matter what class they're in. It's not there.
You're able to follow the shoulds. You don't have to think between a want and a need. Now, I just want to say I know the middle class is dying for everyone. And a lot of middle class parents of adult children that I'm talking about here, a lot of you, you're seeing this in your bank accounts too. You're seeing that you can't afford the vacations anymore.
Yeah.
You're seeing that, you can't afford eating out nearly as much. I don't think that a lot of middle class parents realize that their adult working class children have never been able to eat out, have never been able to go on vacations.
I'm sorry, I can't tell. I be covering so many videos. Y'all be outside. What? Now, I didn't say they doing it responsibly. I'm not saying that. And these are from people who actually have the resources to do it and the money to do it. They're just like quite literally living a YOLO lifestyle a lot of the time. Don't take my word for it. It's not my feelings. This is the facts. Now, it says here, why are people making six figures living paycheck to paycheck? Now, I know a lot of y'all probably don't think that that is the case, but it is. Where Yahoo Finance even goes on to call this an all too often common issue. Common. Even for people making six figures. Why you don't say? And according to the survey, it says nearly 60% of people are just scraping by. Without any savings or wiggle room for their budgets. A lot of people, no matter what the social class they're in, they're not budgeting. They have no clue what's coming in and what's going out. They're just swipe. And we live in a world where if you just swipe your credit card, it's almost like you don't even think that wasn't real money. A lot of people using girl math out here. They're in Sephora running up a bag. They're just buying a bunch of stuff. They're not thinking about these are real dollars that you had to go clock in at work to go earn. Uncle Sam gonna get his cut every year. And you got to go to work to pay for all these things that you were swiping. Or if you're using your debit card, you're just going to see all that money dwindle down every month. And then you're going to say, I'm broke. I don't know what's going on. Because you don't look at how much money you're spending. You're just swiping. You start to get low. You say, hey, I'm broke. I don't know what happened. And guess what? You get paid again and you do it again. You get paid again and you do it again. And you do it for years and years at a time. And you say you're living paycheck to paycheck just like everybody else who's in a lower economic class than you. That's how it works, y'all. It's quite simple. And the article goes on to say what's even more surprising is that it's not just low income folks. And that's what I'm trying to tell y'all. Over half of Americans making six figures are still living paycheck to paycheck too. So what money? And while editing this video, this part right here caught my attention.
I don't think that a lot of middle class parents realize that their adult working class children have never been able to eat out.
So I asked you all, how often do you eat out at restaurants, fast food, or etc.? 25% of y'all said multiple times a week. 23% of y'all said once a week. 32% said a few times a month. And a whopping, the lowest percentage possible, 19% said rarely or never. And this was out of 7K votes.
Because you think we're middle class too, and we're not. Sorry, mom and dad, if you're watching this, I love you. And I know that you get it to a strong degree. But this is just a PSA because I think that as the economy gets worse, we're going to need class solidarity. And that means that all of us who are working class people, even if you make over 100K, if you don't have a backup plan if you were to lose your salary, you are working class.
One thing I agree with that she said is a lot of people don't have a backup plan, but solidarity won't make one for you. We can't be loud about a system being broken and still quiet about what we're really doing with our money. That's the part that we can control. If nobody understands money, all you're doing is recycling the same broke mindset. Even people making six figures are living paycheck to paycheck. So having money isn't the solution if your mindset and habits don't change. I stress the importance of having a backup plan. Now, what is a backup plan? Can we ask that question and ask ourselves not just what is a backup plan or say we don't have one? Of course, we wouldn't have a backup plan if we didn't make a backup plan, right? Just like we wouldn't have a budget and know how much we should be able to spend every month if we don't make a budget. What is your backup plan? Do you have one, or are you just talking about one? Because a plan without action is just that, a plan. Are you executing on the plan? I didn't say it was going to be fun or easy. I'm just asking, do you have one? Everybody's plan is going to be different. Some people selling stuff in the house. They're selling things to build an emergency fund. They're getting rid of non-necessities, figuring a way to give their families cushion. That's not what they want to do. The dad wanted to keep the boat. He liked to go on the lake in the summer to go fishing. He gave up the boat because the boat was expensive and they could use it as a buffer in the event that stuff get tight, that life gets real. You see what I'm saying? Are y'all ready to do that? Are you ready to look around and say, what is worth value in this house that I don't need because I need money, I need moolah, and get rid of it? Because then at least I got a little bit of security. What's the plan? Are you going to go get a side job? You're going to get a side hustle? Are you going to figure out a way to get more income? Is that your plan? Or are you going to cut back and stop spending so much money? But you have to do something if you want some results. You just can't talk about it. And I'm just being realistic. You talking about it isn't going to make it not be a problem. You have to do something. Now, this is just some realism for your tail.
You don't own capital. If you trade your time for money, you're working class. And we gotta stick together here and recognize that a lot of the way that we would play the game, a lot of those financial rules are no longer as advantageous for us in the younger generation in particular.
If you have a job that allows you the opportunity to save, the opportunity to budget, and to have all your basic necessities met, and you can then give yourself a little buffer and you just don't want to, that's more of an excuse. And a lot of people are using excuses and they're just saying, oh, well, I'm not able to, or I'm struggling, or X, Y, and Z. No, you just don't want to discipline yourself and hold yourself accountable and do the thing that's not fun, the thing that's not sexy, the thing that everybody else around is doing. And then you're just saying, oh, I'm not able. No, you're able. But you also want the lifestyle you want, and you don't want to give anything up, which I understand, like human nature, right? To not want to, go a step down from where you feel like you're at. But what if that's necessary so you can at least have $1,000 in the event that you have an emergency? Maybe you don't need to be lining up at the stores buying all the unnecessary things. And I'm saying unnecessary things, y'all. The things that y'all know good and well you don't need to survive. Would you be willing to put your head down for a short amount of time in order to achieve a goal so then you wouldn't have to be stressed and worried? I don't know. Everybody's different. But I know one thing. Doing a bunch of talking and not enough action ain't going to get you nowhere. You're going to be in the same situation year after year after year after year. Like, are you going to make more money? Are you going to figure a way to save money? Unless you think money's finna fall out the sky, or you think that major change is going to happen with you doing nothing, I don't really know what to say about that.
I'll tell you, I'm someone who always got good grades, always did what the teacher said. I always pay my payments on time.
What their teachers got to do? I'm sorry. We talking about high school? What they got to do with this?
And I'm telling you, it's really, really hard for me to give a fuck about a credit score right now.
Well, I understand where she's coming from, but I feel like you kind of get what you get when you have a certain attitude. I just hope that anyone that, feels like that, they're not out making reckless decisions. Like, it's okay if you don't care about it. I get that. But please, y'all, don't dig yourself into a financial hole because you just don't care about your credit score if you don't need to. I'm talking about for necessities, because I get it.
I wish I could. I wish I do. That's just the reality that we're in right now. We're going to need class consciousness and solidarity amongst the working class if we want to create a better economy that works for us and meets our needs. And hey, even maybe even allows us a few luxuries here and there.
I sincerely want to know, what does the class consciousness do as far as getting you to where you have $1,000 for an emergency? Where does it put you as far as you living on less than you make, you being disciplined, you understanding money and how to manage money when you do get the money so you don't blow the money? And how does it get you more income? Because don't get me wrong, I do think that there are a lot of things that could be better, but at the end of the day, a lot of things are personal, like personal finance. And how much money people have coming in and what they do with it really depends on the person, because some people, they're out there working 3 jobs, and a lot of people are just like, hey, I'm gonna go get mine. I'm gonna get mine. And while, yes, you may want people to stand with you because, you're going through something, a lot of people simply don't what is supposed to happen? They're supposed to all be on TikTok talking about class solidarity and, standing together. I'm not saying that's a bad idea. I'm just saying, does it change what your reality is? And if it doesn't, then why would that be beneficial for other people to join it? Because, you get what I'm saying? And I say that because people worry about themselves. Like, if they're hungry, they're going to figure out a way to get their food because you're not going to come save them and they're not going to come save you. That's the truth. And y'all know it. Y'all are not saving each other. When we got to the bottom of what a lot of people do with their money, do you think that the people who are responsible with their money and the people who are irresponsible and just living a YOLO lifestyle are having the same conversations and the same mindsets? They're not. They're not. Just think about what I'm saying and don't pick a side and don't get offended. We have people realistically that are like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. We have people that are like, I reject hustle culture. We have people like, I don't want to be a girl boss. We have people like, I want to be a stay-at-home mom. I don't want to have to pay for anything. I don't want to have to work. We have men that are like, I don't want to have to work. I want to be a stay-at-home husband. We have people that are like, I think the government should pay for everything and we should have checks coming in. We have people that are like, you eat what you kill, go out and get it yourself. Only the strong survive. Survival of the fittest. People willing to work 3 jobs at one time to provide for their whole family, just no complaining. People on welfare, Section 8, food stamps, middle class, lower class, poverty, business owners, entrepreneurs, and even some of those that I just named are in the middle class. My whole point is everybody has a different mindset about how they're going to get up and go get to what they need to get to. My apologies, y'all. Almost left out the girl bosses and the people that work in corporate. Shouts out to all my working class folks. And yes, while there is a group of people with this mindset, that's not everybody. And then you got people like me that's just like, it is what it is. Like, I got to make something happen. Solution based. That's like, hey, what can I do? And I need to focus on that because all this extra stuff is wasting time. And it's not that a lot of us want to be like that. It's that we know that doing it another way is not going to get any results. You're just going to be talking. You're going to be talking until you turn blue in the face with the same problem. You're going to wake up with the same problem. And guess what? I can't cry to you about it. You're not going to do anything for me. And I already was knowing.
And there's just a lot of disillusionment going on right now because especially a lot of people in older generations realizing that you've worked your whole life. You've put a lot of hard work, hoping that if you had a good credit score, if you paid into your 401k, if you were a good worker, hoping that that would be enough.
A lot of people are just like, oh, I'm just putting money in there. They have no clue where the money is going. Look where the money is going, y'all. And are you even putting enough in there to quote unquote retire, to have enough money whenever you are able to withdraw it, to live the lifestyle you want to live? Not just, oh, I was putting in $100 and, I just was wishing upon a star that I was going to have $50 million when I was retired, but I don't. Like, of course, because you didn't look and you don't understand what's going on. And I'm only saying that because a lot of times we're not even working for the thing that we really want. We're just doing something and we're like, oh, I didn't know. And sometimes when you don't prepare, you're not prepared.
A lot of Gen X right now is having to pay for their elderly parents and their adult children, even though they did everything right. So I'm not saying to dwell in what we can't change, but
that's kind of what we've been doing is dwelling in okay.
I'm saying get angry if it makes you empowered and move through the disillusionment and the shame that makes you feel like you could have done more. Because a lot of your adult children who are struggling with time management and resource management are under-resourced. And we've recognized that there is no winning.
I don't like a quitter's mentality. And I'm just not one of those people that's just like, there's no winning. There's nothing we can do. Like the system is rigged. I'm just not one of those people. Down to my core, I'm not one of those people.
So we're gonna have to be creative and we're gonna have to work together.
Y'all don't need to band together to control some things in your life, but you need to band together. What are y'all banding together about? And where are y'all banding together so I can, I'm just curious. Banding together where? Because if you need money, regardless, you're going to have to do the things that we discussed. You're either going to have to work or live off of less than what you currently make. Like, are y'all kumbayaing at a job? Like, honestly, not trying to be at the pity party. Where are y'all banding together at? I don't know. And while I agree with a lot of the points that she made, I just feel like, what are you going to do about the hand that you're given? What are you going to do about the situation you're in that is within your control. What are you going to do about that? But y'all, let me know. Do you think that the middle class is effectively going away? Do you think that we have it way worse than our parents did? But we have to start making better decisions today in order to have a better future.